Well, there's a lot to say when it comes to working with cameras, especially the Canon R5 and its 8K. You see, the R5 in itself is an amazing camera with amazing capabilities, but one of the things that unfortunately it gets plagued with is the fact that editing with its file sizes, especially the 8K, has become cumbersome on some computers. But then Mac says, oh, well, we've created this new processor in this chip, and if you buy our really overpriced and expensive proprietary Mac computers, then you'll be okay. Because with our Mac and our M1 chips, you should be good. But that leaves everyone who's using a PC in kind of the dust, or kind of like, well, I have an R5, I'm not getting a Mac or spending that money. I spend enough money on the camera. Recording with the R5, you want the ability to edit. And if you've got PC and you're not moving away from the PC, it's almost like we're helpless. Well, the other problem is that you need to know exactly how to use a PC or what you need in a PC. What will a PC get? See, that's the thing. If you're a camera owner, you've got to recognize that you need to be well-versed in computers. If you're going to edit files, whether that's photos or videos, you've got to know how to use a computer and what goes in a computer to begin with. What's inside your computer that actually affects the way that you work. Now, yes, a video card, fast processor, good hard drives, but what are those components doing? And most importantly, what about those components is actually going to help you edit the 8K raw files, rather than just throw it all away and get pretty much an iMac. See, that's the thing. That's the thing that I'm here to help you. Because it is possible to edit 8K raw files pretty smoothly on the PC. Basically, I want to show you what are the most important components that you have, that even though you have a decked out computer and it's like, hey, it's not running fast. Well, it might be your fault, and you might be able to edit quicker without having to purchase anything. It just is kind of the way that you're working. And today I'm going to do it off of my computer here. I'm not one of those creators that just tells you get a Mac or get the most expensive items and whatever. I can work with what I have, and with what I've had to work with, granted it's not exactly cheap, all of it, especially my cameras, I've been able to do some amazing things just with what I have just here without spending an obscene amount of money on too much gear. Though I do have a lot of this gear wasn't that expensive. How do we get that idea and that format going when you're actually editing on a PC? And what are the most important things? Because we're going to get this R5 file footage working the way we want. And the main point is going to be, of course, get it to work. So here's the R5 recording from this scene, but we're going to go down to the computer and see what we can do. All right, let's get first things first started. This is the R5, 8K raw. That's what I'm recording now. And all of these edits from this angle are going to be off of the 8K, but we're going to transfer that to the computer. Now, I've already pre-recorded a lot of B-roll that I'm going to use for this video, and I've done two things with them so I can show you the significance of what you need in a computer. And I've done enough stalling, so let's get to the PC and get right back to work, because that's what you guys showed up for, right? Okay, let's get started. Okay, so at the computer, I've already transported the R5 like B-roll footage into my computer. So to start off, one of the most important things is having a computer that could actually work with these files. So you can see my specs. I've got an AMD Ryzen 9 3900X 12-core processor. Now, the processor in itself is pretty fast, but it wasn't as expensive as, of course, buying a new computer or buying a MacBook with their M1 chips. But it's already a couple of generations old, so it's not the newest processor. I will say that one of the most important things that actually helped when it comes to editing these 8K raw files is the installed RAM. I installed 64 gigabytes of RAM. And I'll show you how important RAM is when working with these files on PC. And I'm going to show you these off of Adobe Premiere. When it comes to using DaVinci Resolve, just know that DaVinci Resolve is a bit faster because it uses a lot of your graphics processor to offload a lot of that weight. But anything that I say here for Adobe Premiere will apply to DaVinci Resolve as well. So 64 gigabytes of RAM. Why is that important? I'm going to show you something. I'm going to drop this 8K RAW file. This is 8K RAW onto my timeline. Right now, I'm going to check the memory on my computer. Memory usage, 11 gigabytes of RAM is being used on just Adobe Premiere. And once I start making this stuff like work and go to work, again, it's playing pretty smoothly. No skipped frames as it's playing. And I'm recording like my mess of my B-roll. But it's green the whole way. No skipped frames. Why is that? It's because I've got a lot of RAM. That is absolutely more important. I had around 16 gigabytes of RAM when I first started editing 8K, and that didn't help. Number one lesson number one, get RAM, at least 64 gigabytes. That'll help you to edit 8K right off of the camera faster. Secondly, you also need to get the hard drive. It's one of the most important editing items. Why? Because a solid state hard drive in itself versus a regular HDD hard drive will help improve your speed. But if you don't have an SSD with you, but you have a CF Express card reader, I'll show you a trick. I'll basically tell you a trick on recording it. Now let me show you the difference on what an SSD will do versus an HDD. So an SSD, I have here, like I showed you, this is SSD footage playing 8K RAW, and I have it at quarter resolution. If I do full resolution, it'll be a ton slower. Now, a quarter resolution or less would be fine. And see, it plays smoothly, and it scrubs smoothly with no issues. 8K on a PC from the R5. And why does it scrub smoothly? Because it doesn't have to read all of that. Now you're like, but I want full resolution. You don't need full resolution. Most monitors don't. This is a 4K monitor. If I wanted 4K playback, I'd do it at 1/2, but then I would have the entire screen. Is it necessary for editing? No. Quarter resolution, basically like downsampled that raw footage to like 1080p. And this screen right here is about a quarter of my screen, if not less. So 1/4 is just fine for me to look at it and say, yeah, that looks good. And then you could edit there to your heart's content. But let's look at what happens when you have an HDD of this same raw video. This is exactly the same. I just copied it to a separate hard drive. So now this is the HDD version. What happened to the smooth scrubbing? It's not bad off of HDD, but it's definitely not smooth. And when I play, it takes a moment or two to play. See? And then it's jumpy. Whereas here, same footage, same exact footage, and it's not jumpy. It pretty much plays no skip frames. And that's what I'm talking about. No skip frames, working with the footage, being able to edit 8K RAW on a PC. But then if you're saying, I don't have an SSD right now and I want to edit this fast. If you've got a CF Express card reader, which chances are that you do, you might be able to still edit that quickly if you recorded 8K RAW footage. Now what you want to do is, take my R5, okay? Take out the CF Express card. Now what you do is you take the CF Express card and you put it into your CF Express card reader. Then, this is very important. Look for the fastest type of card reader that you can if you have it. But if it's got USB-C, that is probably the best for computer. Now I have a 3.1 connection at the end, and I have a USB 3.1 port in the front. If it's USB-C to USB-C, that's even better. But the drive that I connect to this to is just as fast. So I'm going to connect USB-C to here. And what I'm also going to do, I'm going to pull up that footage. And what I'm going to do is, rather than importing it to one of my hard drives, I'm going to import it right into my project. Here's 8K raw footage. As I'm recording this footage right now, I actually recorded some of this intro. This is right off the card. I've got USB-C attached to the card, and it plays pretty smoothly. As you can see, no dropped frames, and it's playing very quickly. And the reason that this works is because these CF Express cards type B are like SSDs. They're not spinning, they're not anything, so they're pretty fast. CF Express cards in itself is extremely fast. So I'm able to take what's here, scrub through it really quickly, as you can see, and it edits just fine. And I don't have to have an SSD actually working, right? It just works right off of here, which is great. This is what you want. This is a situation you want to be able to work with. And of course, you can start to color correct, add LUTs, do what you need to off of that footage. And then of course, make sure you output your files not into the CF Express card, but into a different hard drive. But at the very least, you can at least get the footage that you need right from your card really fast. And as you can see, it plays just fine. In 8K RAW. This is 8K RAW right here. So, okay, I showed you a couple of ways, especially the importance of a hard drive, because you saw if you've got a spinning hard drive, it's not going to be fast. You need to use SSDs. You need to use fast media. That way your computer can read that data. And that's why you're getting a lot of dropped frames. When a lot of people say, oh, you know, 8K is so slow. Well, yeah, like this shot, 8K is going to be slow because you're using that spinning hard drive. Look at it. I could barely get it to play. And then it starts to play a little bit, but then it's dropping frames like crazy. And you won't have that issue when you start actually using solid state media. Now, what if you don't have the ability to use a CF Express card reader because you don't have any fast ports, and you are working with these 8K files and you really need to edit fast? Now, I've shown you this in videos before, but R5 has the ability to record 8K RAW plus proxies. And I'll show you what that looks like. Right there, I've got it recording 8K RAW plus proxies. So that it's that second item off the drop-down menu, RAW and proxies. And I'll show you what that does. And it's actually really handy because it helps if you've only got a spinning hard drive. Now, this doesn't take away the fact that you absolutely need to have 64 gigabytes of RAM. RAM is so important. This will not work as smoothly if you don't have RAM. So I'm going to, now remember, this second shot that I showed you here was off the hard drive. Very slow hard drive. Again, it's taking forever to start playing. And then when it plays, it skips, as you see. Now watch this. I'm going to take the HD sample of this, and I'm going to go proxy, attach proxies. Then I'm going to hit attach. And off of my spinning hard drive, I had the proxy that the R5 created automatically. So I didn't need to create a proxy and waste a bunch of time. The R5 itself already created a proxy. And I make sure I turn on the proxies in Premiere. And now, 8K footage, watch how it plays. And this is off the spinning hard drive. No dropped frames. Ladies and gentlemen, we're working with 8K spinning hard drives, no dropped frames, off of 8K proxies. How the hell is that even possible? When you scrub on the actual 8K proxy, it's still not super fast because, again, you're working with a spinning hard drive that has to kind of catch up. However, it improves the smoothness of the playback by a lot. So you're able to at least play back the footage that you're working with and go from there. The proxy is not raw file, but the proxy itself will let you at least watch your footage and then do your color correction and it'll still output in 8K. That's great. And then the final thing, and I'm definitely excited to show you all of this, and why I wanted to show you kind of like different things around my studio, because you're not helpless, especially when you have different difficult circumstances. You don't have to waste all your money buying a Mac just to edit 8K RAW files easily. So I think I made my point. I'm on a PC, I don't have a Mac, but I'm able to edit these RAW files pretty well. And one of the things that matter is that I have an RTX 3070 Ti video card, which is very expensive nowadays. However, this type of editing I was able to accomplish with a video card that was much older. It was, for reference, an NVIDIA GTX 970. So that's several generations old, and I was still getting similar performance. And that only happened when I actually increased my RAM and made sure I worked with SSDs. Point of this whole video is, please, you don't need an iMac to edit 8K RAW files from the R5. Yeah, you just buy an iMac and you put it in and it works, whereas a PC, you got to know what you're doing and what you've got installed in your machine, because it's customizable. So that's what you need. RAM, good to great video card, good processor to great processor, and fast hard drives, and to know what you're doing. So, oh, and don't forget the RAM, all of that. Take notes. Anyway, I kind of rambled on. Thank you for joining me in my studio. This is you've seen the wide angle of my studio now, so you can see kind of how I work here. And I've actually refrained from calling it my studio. I consider this place my dungeon, because this place is in disarray most of the time, because I record different types of videos. You can see my green screen back there that goes up and down whenever I do something on green screen, and then the different colors I've got going on here. But as always, you can make my day if you subscribe today. This is Magnus, and I'm out. See you guys later.